I was pregnant with twins, and there was a boy and a girl. I fought and they fought for as long as possible. Unfortunately, when I was 26 weeks, which is a little bit over 6 months, my water broke. He was only 2 pounds in weight. He wasn't born breathing. So on day 4, they identified brain hemorrhage or brain bleed in his brain. That was causing his cerebrospinal fluid to be obstructed. During that time, many other things happened. He got several brain infections in his brain because of the increased buildup. He was still ventilated on life support machines. He needed multiple blood transfusions. He would stop breathing, had to be bagged or manually resuscitated several times over the course of the time he was in the hospital. When he was 15 months old, he wasn't sitting up, he wasn't eating properly, he wasn't talking, he wasn't crawling or walking or any other normal developmental milestones that you will see in a baby that's over a year old. So we knew we had a lot of work to do, and that's what we did. When he was about 18 months old, he had his first surgery for his eyes. One of his eyes was moving out, and therefore his brain was losing connection with his eye. He was losing vision. He had damage in his lungs. He wasn't properly digesting food. We had to be in the hospital for 2 weeks trying to find a medical reason why he wasn't eating anymore. Unfortunately, nothing could be found, and he received a feeding tube. Several years had passed from the brain hemorrhage. He was a little bit over 2 years old, and they wanted to see how his brain looked. That testing revealed a tumor in his adrenal gland, which was completely incidental and unrelated to any of his other medical conditions. That tumor was identified as a neuroblastoma, which is a very aggressive form of pediatric cancer. We were certain this was it. This was what was going to take him from us. We were blessed to find out that because it was an incidental finding, it was stage 1. It hadn't spread anywhere else. It was just there, localized. So all he needed was surgery to save his life. And we thought, nothing else can go wrong. We started noticing that Renato's behavior, he became aggressive at times, confused. He would try to self-harm or harm others unintentionally, just out of frustration and an inability to be able to communicate his needs. So after several testing, the doctors determined that he also had autism. Currently, in 2006, the state of Texas changed the way Medicaid is structured for families like ours. And before this time, before 2016, the state would manage all of the Medicaid administration. Unfortunately, in 2016, this was rolled over to organizations that are for-profit, private companies that manage the Medicaid for the state. As any for-profit organization would be, they have their best interests in mind, or so it seems, at least for families like ours. Access to care has become much more restrictive, not only in the resources that you can have for your child, but also in the access to medical care in Texas. These managed care organizations will limit the network of doctors that you have access to, and they all have to be within a certain region, contracted within your county. So that means for us that even traveling outside to Plano might present a challenge. Issues with Medicaid waivers and lack of funding to these waivers causes families like ours to not have the resources we need now to keep our child safe at home. Right now he's on a Medicaid waiver that has a wait list from 5 years to almost 15 years. Right now there are several bills in the legislature and the Senate currently being proposed and backed by an organization called Protect Texas Fragile Kids, which I'm part of. It's a group of moms that came together as an advocate group because we needed to see a change. And they are right now every single day in the Senate trying to co-sponsor some bills that are at the legislative level right now that will help our kids, especially add more transparency to these MCO companies and additional scrutiny and oversight to make sure that they're not profiting off the backs of our children. I always tell people that we're blessed. He came to our lives to change our perspective in life. All he knows is love, and I hope that's all he ever knows.